I messed up. With about 6 weeks until I step on stage to do my first ever bodybuilding competition, I almost ruined the entire prep over one bad weekend. So to put into context of the mistake that I made last weekend when I was 7 weeks out, I had been progressing really well in my prep. I was on track to where I had to be, if not maybe slightly ahead of where I had to be. And I was reaching a point where I was the most lean that I had ever been. So my physique and, the body fat level that I was at with the amount of muscle that I had was the best that I've ever been at up until this point in the prep. And on the Friday of last week, I went to have dinner at my parents', and I figured, that would be my cheat meal of the week that I have. And so when I got there to have dinner, there was tortellini with pesto sauce, there was Italian sausage, and there was a big Caesar salad with, bacon bits and breadcrumbs and the whole 9 yards of what you'd find in those items. And I figured that, I'm pretty ahead on my prep. I could afford to have a few more calories and it's going to help my workout. So I ate to my heart's desire. I had 2 full servings of the dinner. And again, this was on the Friday night. And then 3 days later on the Monday, we had Labor Day. And which means that I had off, but restaurants were still open. And I had family that was visiting in town. And we were asked to go to brunch. So I went to brunch on the Monday, only 2 days after I'd eaten a cheat meal, and I got a chicken burrito. I made some modifications to it so that I took out the cheese, whatever, but I still ate that, and I had all the breakfast potatoes that came with it. I had some fruit and whatever. Come Wednesday of this past week, I go to see my coach where we retake our skin caliper measurements. So he measures at my cheek level, my chin, triceps, subscap, chest, waist, legs, everywhere. And all of my skin fold measurements increased. By a little bit, not like a crazy dramatic amount, but I had actually regressed. I had measured on these measurements at a higher body fat percentage than I was the 2 weeks prior, which basically means that I regressed. And I had also taken myself out of fat burning mode because I had this huge influx of calories, and then again 2 days later had another big influx of calories that obviously I couldn't track, because when you get food at a restaurant, you don't know what's in it, you don't know how much butter might have been used, or oil, or dressing, sauces, etc. And so my coach looked at me, he basically said, "Shayne, you're 6 weeks out from your competition. If you do this again between now and your competition day, you're cooked. You will not be ready to compete. Your body will not be at the level of conditioning that you want it to be at to be as competitive as you can be on stage." And I know for many people watching, you're going to hear this and think, this guy's being crazy, like he had one meal on a Friday and then he had like a regular meal on a Monday, and it's not the end of the world, you're still 6 weeks away. But when you're at such a low body fat percentage and you stray just a little bit outside of what you should be doing, it can take 1 week or more just to get back into fat burning mode. It's like losing a week of progress on your diet. And so he made this clear to me. I was like, I knew that I had messed up, I willingly had that food because I was in a social situation where everyone was having it. I thought I was ahead. I thought I could afford to have a meal like that. And I gave in, I sacrificed thinking of what my long-term goal was for October 19th to have some instant gratification, which I think is what pisses me off the most. And I was so freaking upset with myself following this talk that I had with my coach, because it's not like this is something that was out of my control or I was forced into something that I had no choice over. I willingly had 2 high-calorie cheat meals outside of my diet plan, willingly, and, completely just strayed from what I had to be doing in order for me to prep for this competition. And I want you guys to bear in mind, I've been training for this competition and prepping for everything that I've been doing here for the last year. 5 to 6 days of the week, I go to the gym, I do cardio, I train, I lift weights, and I beat the shit out of my body for a year straight. Not to mention, the 10 years that I trained prior to this, but doing other sports and whatever. And then I was just gonna shit it away for 2 tasty meals over the course of a weekend. I was livid. I was so disappointed in myself. I wanted to just scream at the top of my lungs at how pissed off I was because I had messed this up. I don't think that the first time you go through anything, or at least the first time you go through bodybuilding prep, things are going to be perfect. Mistakes can be made, and they will be made, and it's about kind of being able to bounce back from them and figure out, all right, I did this thing, it's a bit of a setback, what can I do now to push through it and to get on to the next step? And so the plan for this week was we're bumping up the Stairmaster time from 30 minutes to 40 minutes a day. Morning cardio, which is done fasted, is still 20 minutes. Rest periods during my workouts will be cut by a little bit if I feel like I'm ready to go before the time is up to rest. And next week I have a check-in with my coach to see where things are at and to make sure that I'm back on track. I'm telling you, when this happened, I was just sitting there between sets and I was just like, I bust my ass so much and I trained so hard for this, and I literally let myself down by allowing the kind of social context and being comfortable with where I was at to intrude onto what my ultimate goal was, which was to step on stage in the best shape I could possibly be in. And look, I know that I do put a lot of pressure on myself, not just in bodybuilding, but in my work, in my career, with how I am in my relationships with people, friends of mine, family, partners. So I hold myself to a high standard, and when I can't meet that standard for myself, I definitely don't feel good about it. Don't worry, a lot of people have told me not to be so hard on myself. It's not the end of the world. But again, just to touch upon, just to go back to what I was just explaining, you train for an entire year straight for this one event and you almost mess it up because you got comfortable. Now we're 6 weeks out, things are going to get serious. It's already been about 4 days of doing the higher levels of cardio and a little more intensity in the training, and my body weight this morning was 144.8, which on the day that I weighed in with my coach was 146.0. That's how much water I was retaining. And so really what this is all going to lead to is that as of now, 6 weeks out, 1.5 months from the competition, there's going to be no more cheat meals. I'm not going out to any more restaurants and ordering food and thinking, I can afford to have this, I can afford to have that. I'm allowed 300 calories more of carbs. I'm going to eat that shit as white rice. I don't care, man. I'll suffer for the 6 weeks. If anything, there's enjoyment in the suffering, because I know the harder that I can make it for myself, the more rewarding and the better it's going to feel when I do succeed and when I do perform at my best come October. So that's my pledge. From now on, until show day, October 19th, there won't be any more mess ups, there won't be any more screw ups. I will not mess around again. But with that said, today we're going to be doing a push workout, so we're going to prep everything that we got to do. I'll see you at the gym before we do that, and it's gonna be a banger. Catch you there. If I stand perfectly still, you might not notice that I actually look invisible. Just look at the camouflage of the car interior and my shirt. That's kind of nuts. So we made it out here to Atlantis. We're gonna be doing a push day today. So chest, shoulders, and a little bit of triceps. Gonna be practicing once again our posing routine that we looked at last week for our mandatory that we have to do. I did end up ordering 2 pairs of posing trunks from Crystal Creations, and when I get those in, I'll show them to you guys. I won't reveal the colors that I chose just yet. You know, you gotta leave something to the imagination. Now, obviously, with the update that we had with my coach earlier this week and how that went and my thought process following that meeting, you know, more than anything, like I might have mentioned already, I'm pissed off at myself, and I'm pissed off at the fact that I put so much time and effort for the last year into all this training, and then I willingly did things that were counterproductive or counterintuitive to that main goal. So we're gonna get in there, and things are gonna get pretty gnarly. No more time to waste, let's go. Alright, it was a day and things got pushed. I'd say it's a pretty successful push day. Anyway, let's run through the posing routine once again, see if it's a little more refurbished, and we'll see where we are in terms of conditioning for this week. Let's get at it. Okay. I'd say it's not looking too bad. Nice. So I definitely dehydrated a bit more, even from a few days ago, which is great. Gonna shut it off, run through some mandatories, try to hold those positions for 30 to 60 seconds, build up the conditioning, and then I'll see you guys in the car. So here we are post-workout. We got our shake. This is going to stay the same, I think, up until peak week probably, of 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams of protein. And if you want to see the supplements that I use, it's in the last video when we were 7 weeks out. Carbolin for the carbs, flavor-free, and then Diesel Pure New Zealand Isolate whey protein for 2 scoops. Comes out to 52 grams protein, I believe. My whole mentality for that workout was that if I'm training hard, there might be someone out there competing at IDFA 156 who's training twice as hard. If I'm doing 30 minutes on the Stairmaster, there might be someone doing 40 or 50 or 60 minutes. So every single set, if I'm hitting my mark of 12 reps, for example, and I feel like I got 1 or 2 more in the tank, I'm throwing them in there. As long as I can do that safely and with perfect form and I'm not compromising it, I'm going for it, dude. It's just different now that we're 6 weeks out. There is no room for error. There's no room for messing around and taking a day where I'm going to slack off and not push myself to the most that I can. I'd been training for a year to prepare for this competition. I went from running a marathon last September to going into a 3 or 4 month long bulk, and then changing my diet habits completely, and then beginning a cut at 16 weeks away from the competition. So I've only been learning and learning and learning, taking on new challenges and pushing myself into places that I'd never been before. But you want to do something in life, you want to dream and you want to achieve it, you're going to have to do some shit that you've never done. That's the only way that you're going to get a result that you've never had. So anyway, I'm going to throw down this shake. I have a couple of property visits to check out a little bit later with my agent and my girlfriend is going to be coming along, and we'll see where the day takes us. Talk to you guys soon. So we're back from the property visits that we did. They went very, very well. We visited 7 different properties over the span of about 3 hours, all within one area of Montreal that we were looking as a potential region. There's 3 that we're interested in terms of areas, not units. But of the 7 units we saw, there was 2 that were very interesting. One in particular that I could definitely see myself living in and eventually renting out as a property owner later on down the line, maybe in a few years when I decide to get a house with my girlfriend. But I was thinking on the way over here that there's something that I wanted to do to mark the shift in mentality that I'm going to be having for the next 6 weeks. The fact that I won't be messing around, I won't take any shortcuts, I won't make any mistakes in that regard. And sometimes when you make a change mentally, there also must come a physical transformation. And I think I know just the thing that we're going to be doing this week. Let's go do that. In order to do something that you've never done before, you must be willing to shed your former self. Here comes the prep stash. Here it is. So it's maybe not as absolutely terrible as, as I thought it was going to be. But I think what I'll do is I'll cut the rest of my hair, which I usually do, and then see how it looks after I shower and kind of do it up. I'll show you guys the final product in just a second. So here we are. This is it. This is the final result. This is the look that I will be carrying for the next 6 weeks until I step on stage, and following that, I probably won't shave it off completely. I'll probably just grow out the rest of my beard back to how it was. It's gonna be good to hold this and keep myself accountable and to make sure that I stay focused for the next 6 weeks, which is no joke, 42 days away. It seems a lot closer when I say it that way. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. We're approaching things differently now. No more time for dilly-dallying, no more time for messing around. I'm not playing anymore. And I'll see you next week when we are 5 weeks out. Till then, wishing you the best. Talk to you soon. Take care.